um, and it's not for everybody because you have to be able to walk. There's a lot of walking, and you need to know that up front. And when you have a group of, my groups I've taken have been anywhere from 25 to 45 people, and if one person can't walk, they either have to stay on the bus or stay at home, or we've got such a caring group that sometimes we all choose not to do something. So I always let people know that what's required of them to go there. So I didn't think I'd go back, but when I came here, a lot of people asked me, and I will tell you what's different about my trips than other trips. Number one, they're cheaper. You know, they're if you go look on any of these other big trips, they're mostly a lot more expensive. Number two is they're so personal. If we can get 30 people, we get our own bus. And so I will be in charge of the bus driver, meaning I can tell the bus driver, I want to stay longer here or I want to go to here. And most people, you go in a group and you don't have any control of the itinerary. If we get enough to get our own bus, the bus driver, and we have a local, I am the group guide, but we will have a local guide who will take us into all the places. And he will work for us, and he will go where I tell him to go. And I will say, avoid all the gift shops, avoid all that, because most of the time they'd send you the gift shop. But it's great when you have your own bus and your own tour. I will promise you this, just say we have 30 people that will go, you'll have kindred spirits for the rest of your life if you go with those 30 people. That's the reason Lisa will tell you that I enjoy going, is because in all my life, the last 20 years, I've been in a large church, but those 30 people that I went to Israel with, I've got a bond that'll last forever. I would encourage you, I've had, the testimonies are, well, I called my sister in Kansas and she brought her, and together we experienced this. Or I brought my daughter with me. Families who share this together, they say they'll talk about it for the rest of their lives if you want to invite someone like that. I often say, this is not a vacation, it's a pilgrimage. And so if you're going there to be a vacation, I would probably say don't come on this, because maybe I'm like my baseball coach today. I've got an itinerary, and we're going to keep it, okay? And so I've got a plan, and there's a purpose for the plan, and there's always one in the group who says, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and they go out here. But there's a purpose for everything that we do, and if you follow the order and the routine, it'll be a beautiful experience. My wife, she provides 30 before we go. How much is the reading day? A 40-day reading plan before we go. Just a daily reading plan about Israel and all the places that we go. And then when we get there, she is prepared, and both of us are prepared, daily devotions for every site. Like if we're going to the Sea of Galilee where the feeding of the 5,000 were, that day our devotional will be on that biblical site. And so we will have a devotion in the morning, and then before we go, and then when we get back, right before after dinner, we'll just have a refreshing time. Usually not as long at night, because they're long days. They're long days. It's hard. Every year trip, I try to slow it down, but there's so much to see. I would rather, some people say, well, I'll just rest this one out, because we want to see as much as we can. On my 5 trips, what I've done, the first one, we went to Israel alone. The second one, we added Petra. We went over to Jordan and went down to Petra. And Petra could be the most beautiful single sight you've ever witnessed with your human eyes. It's just a natural phenomena. It's long to get there. It's 2 extra days just to see it, but it's just the amazing sight. And the other time we went, we came back. We spent 2 days in Rome. And we went in Rome coming back the last time we went. One trip I went on, we didn't go to the Holy Land. We went in the footsteps of Paul. We went to Greece, took a 3-day cruise in the Mediterranean, and then went to Turkey and up in there. But this one is sort of, I'm going to tell you the good news and the bad news. Sort of ambitious. I've never been to Egypt, and so we're going to go to the pyramids first. So our flight goes to Cairo, spend 2 days and looking at the pyramids, and then we fly to Jordan, and then we go see Petra. So we're adding both of those, and then we come for the final 7, 8, 9 days in Israel. So it's ambitious. That's the good news. Let me tell you the bad news. So to see if we want to do this, so that we got some decisions to make today. The bad news is COVID has changed our world. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you go with us or whoever you go with. Lisa's mom just got back from Canada. And hopefully it will change. Hopefully it will change. But right now, when you leave every country, you have to get a COVID test. And you have to prove you've been vaccinated. So number one, you would have to be vaccinated and to get on the plane. Number two, to get into Egypt or any country, you have to prove that you had a test 72 hours before you left. And to leave that country, to get in the next country, you have to get a test. So that's the burden. It may change, but right now, it's going to take an hour. You'll have to. This is the bad news. You're going to have to get tested before you go. It's tested the day we leave Egypt going to Jordan. It's tested the day we leave Jordan going to Israel. And it's tested Israel before we come home. Okay? And so what I need to tell you up front is we can make some decisions on the front end. Those who want to go, will be open dialogue. But we have to be fluid in this. If you want to go with the group, you need to let me know. I'm going because of Egypt, or I'm going because of Jordan, because it may be in our best interest that we cut out one of those, or just, if we didn't want to get the test, we could go spend how many days are we going? 12 days. We could spend all days in Israel and avoid 2 different tests if we wanted to. What our tour company, the day we leave at breakfast, they'll have coming in there, and they say it'll take 30 minutes. We line up, and they do it. And before breakfast, they'll do the test. We'll have the results before breakfast is over. They pay for that, but it costs $50 a person. So you have to know that. So they'll do that, and they say but they're in it to make money. So these trips, so they have it streamlined. But there's only so fast you can do a test and then go eat breakfast and get the results. And the bad news is if you test positive, you can't get on that plane. So I would encourage everyone to get trip insurance if you do that. The good news, and I'm not advocating this, but I will ask you to talk to me later on, see what you think. If we did only Israel, you'd be there. And I won't leave anybody in Egypt, or I won't leave anybody in Jordan like that. But get the travel insurance to pay, because if you have to stay there to that. But the good part is our tour company. I've been worked with this tour company for 20 years. I love them. They give us great deals. And Moses Kano is his name, and Inspirational Tours out of Houston. His brother they are from Israel. So the good news is, in the tour company, if someone had to stay, they would visit you every day, take care of you, treat you like a king. One time I went by myself. I went on a study retreat. Some of you who know me know I go on 2 or 3 study retreats a year. But one year I went to Israel for a 7-day study retreat. And his family, they treated me like a king, putting me in the hotels and that. And so it's so good having nationals there who know. There's no other company I would feel better working with, because they are Israeli and they live there, and they know the company. So they know the country there. So that's the only bad news I would share, but that's not our tour. That's anybody who travels abroad right now. Hopefully it'll change by then, but I can't promise you that. Yeah, I'm afraid that's going to be the way of life that we live in, that we know we're going to have to do that in the future. So that's that. If you look at your brochure, it's a great trip. And we're going to leave Phoenix. We fly to to Germany. Okay, and we've got. I asked for we pay a little more because we're going to Germany, then to Cairo. So there's wow, I hope it's direct. I don't know if it's direct to Frankfurt or not. And then we Cairo, and then I've never been to Cairo, so we'll be met by a guide, and they will show us, we'll see the pyramids, and we have a cruise on the Nile River. And so we're going to follow the Old Testament. Our devotions, we'll give Old Testament. If you come for the first 3 days, it'll be Old Testament history. And then we'll fly to Jordan. And right now, as of today, the border is closed between Jordan and Israel. If it's closed, we'll fly from Jordan to Israel, and they will absorb. It'd be $100 more, but he says that you're talking a year and a month ahead. He's confident it will be open. Either way, we can get over, either by bus or by plane. So we go to Amman, Jordan, and the main purpose of going to Jordan is to travel down and to see Petra. We'll also see the place where Mount Nebo, where Moses was, and we'll probably go to the Jordan River, the most authentic site where John the Baptist was baptizing Jesus, on the Jordanian side of the Jordan River. And we'll do that in Jordan before we come across to Israel. If you look at your, does everybody have one of these or not? If you want one of these, I only got 35. If you have one, I'm going to say, can you pass it? If you have one at home, leave it here, okay? But you can follow along. If you don't have one, you can keep one. But if you have one at home, leave it here, because we're just got a few left, and we want to get other people to come. So I want you to look on your inside. Day number 5. Petra and Amman. Day number 6 is when we come across to Tiberias. The first place we'll go is the northern part, which is the most beautiful place, Tiberia. It's on the Sea of Galilee. And you will have a hotel on the Sea of Galilee. It'll either be on the water or across the street from the water. Either way, you're 50 yards from the water. And they're very nice hotels, very, very nice hotels. You don't have to worry about the living conditions. It's not the highest, but it's very nice. When I say 4-star, 5-star, it's the one below, but very nice. Every group I've been on, people have said just exceptional hotels, and the food has always been very good. So what they provide, there's a breakfast buffet and a dinner buffet. You will be asked to buy lunch. Some people don't eat lunch. Some people love it because we eat at the market, so that we eat things like that, or they take stuff. Some people who don't like the food, they take bagels from the breakfast buffet, and so. But you can do. But I love eating the falafels and all the things that they have there. We'll do that every day. So what we'll do when we get to Tiberias, and the next day, we go. You saw the boat, the Jesus boat. We'll go out on the boat, and we'll get in the middle, and I'll preach a sermon to you out there on the water, and it's just amazing. I think the Sea of Galilee is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It reminds me of Lake Tahoe. It's about the same size as Lake Tahoe. You can travel around, and just beautiful, crystal clear, and the boat ride is always a highlight of that. We go to Capernaum, which is the center piece of Jesus' ministry. The ruins are still there. I'll give some devotions there, and you walk in there, and you can see where the synagogue was, and that. And we'll go up, and this year we're going to go all the way to the Golan Heights, and that's the farthest north there. And it's Caesarea Philippi, where Peter said, "Thou art the Christ, the only begotten Son of God." And we'll go up to the north part of that. Then we come back on day 8. One of my favorite places is Nazareth Village. Nazareth is a bustling town in Galilee, so it's sort of like a major city now. But they have a place called Nazareth Village. It's about probably as big as our property here. I don't know how many acres. How many acres do we have, Dick? You know, Russ, do you know how many acres we have here? 5, 6, 4. And it's a recreation of Nazareth in Jesus' day. You go through there, and then you'll see the place where they were working, the carpenter shop. You'll see the place where they're farming. And they've got about 100 workers, and they're all dressed up in their garb. And it just takes you back in time. So you feel like I spent an entire day there walking a guy who was sewing and making things like that, and pottery farms, and you just feel like you're in Jesus' day until the Greyhound bus went on the side. But other than that, it was great. But I love it, and so I always request Nazareth Village when I go. But then, so we spend about 2 or 3 days in Galilee, in that area, and then we come into Jerusalem, and there's nothing like Jerusalem. There's nothing in the world like Jerusalem. I'll never forget the first time I went, the bus driver, he just said, to Jerusalem, my city. And you saw a breathtaking view of the holy city. So once we get to Jerusalem, the next day, the first day we go up to the Mount of Olives, and that's where Jesus made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. It's the breathtaking view. If you go into my office, I've got a framed picture of Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives going down over the Kidron Valley and that. So we walk down a steep path about a mile down to the Garden of Gethsemane. We had a lady who wore high-heeled shoes. And what is it? Oh, excuse me. So she wore flip-flops. Don't wear flip-flops on these. And she broke her leg. So she thought it was sprained, but it was broken. So because it's very steep, so you need to come prepared. It's not like not a lot, super lot of walking, but you need to be prepared to walk. And so we walk from the Mount of Olives down to the Garden of Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane is a garden. Probably would be 4 times as big as this, and it's now enclosed in a wrought iron fence. And there's a church. What you will know. See, sometimes it's sort of sad. Everything's been turned into a church. It's a museum or something. So we're an evangelical church, so we'll focus not on the churches, but we'll focus on the actual things there, like the Garden of Gethsemane there. And so we'll go into the Garden of Gethsemane, and then we're going to go to Bethlehem. I didn't realize that. So Bethlehem is outside, and we do that. It takes a long time. Bethlehem is a Muslim city or a Christian city. It's not within Israel, and there's a wall around Bethlehem. Bethlehem would be like, my guess would be like, we're in Sun City phase 2, okay? If you put a wall around phase 2 of Sun City, and then Jerusalem is Phoenix. All right. It's right in the midst there. And there are people, because of the political tensions, that the Jews are not allowed to go into Bethlehem. Okay. Our guide when you go into Bethlehem, you'll have soldiers come on and make sure, and then they got to get permission to leave. And if I understand correctly, the United States paid to build that wall many years ago. And there's people who are 14 years old who've never been outside that wall. They've never been to Jerusalem out there. And so there's tensions there. And so, but the Christians have a strong influence in Bethlehem, and the Muslims have a lot of strong influence in Bethlehem, and you get out. But Bethlehem is where the church, where the stable, where we believe Jesus, or we know Jesus was born. But it's not one of my favorite sites because it's a huge Catholic church, and you go down and you see, oh, there it is, so it's like that. And it's so popular, it's a large crowd. So he tries to time it so we can go, so it doesn't take a day. But it could be one of the most number one sites to see. Then the next day, we leave Jerusalem. We go to Qumran, Dead Sea, Masada, and Jericho. Qumran is right near the Dead Sea. Going south is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. You can still see the caves where people go in there. When it was the 1940s, they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in there, and it's beautiful to see how the Bible came to be. We go down to Masada, where the Essenes or the Zealots back in the Romans, they hid out, and it's just in the south. The Dead Sea, my wife loves the Dead Sea. It's her favorite place of all. But she hates it because you can float in there. You can get in there. You don't need an inner tube. You just walk out there and you just float. And you're grimy and salt on there. It's the lowest place on earth. But people love to get out and get in the water, and it's a fun time on the beach in the Dead Sea. And then we come back to Jericho. Once again, you get to Jericho, you're in, what do they say? What's it called? The what? The West Bank. You're in the West Bank there, so you're not in the Israeli areas. Watch your cell phones, man. It's not protected when you get across in the West Bank there. But Jericho is our favorite place where we go. Sometimes we go camel riding in there, and we see the place where Zacchaeus was in the tree and the walls of Jericho there. But Jericho is a neat little place. That's where our tour guide's family lives. So they're always here, and they have treats for us when we go to Jericho. And then we have 2 days in the old city, and basically we go into Jerusalem, and we do the Via Dolorosa. We'll start at one end. We'll go all the way and see the Stations of the Cross. And it's a long walk starting there, and it's amazing how we stay together. It's amazing how we stay together. Usually we all have hats, blue hats or certain hats on, and our guide will have something. But then we'll have, it's, the old city is, it's unfathomable. You would say just narrow walkways and walkways, but it's a maze, but you can, it's not that big. It's not that big, so you can find your way out. The Western Wall, we end up at the Western Wall. The next day we go into, we go through the tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel. We walk under the city all the way to the other side. And you've got quarters. You've got quarters. I didn't prepare all this on that, but different Jerusalem. You've got different quarters, and we want to go visit each quarter and see things in each quarter, and they're all distinct. How they have their own differences. Sometimes you can right on top of it. Is the dome, the Muslim dome there, and it's the mosque, and it's the centerpiece for Islam. So right there above the Western Wall. And so you've got that combination of two religions. There is tension. I'll be honest with you. People always say, is it safe? Well, I say, well, a lion isn't safe. And so I've never been afraid at all. I've never, ever tried to talk someone into going, because you don't know. You don't know. And so, but every time I go, we hear about a mass shooting in Chicago back home, or mass shooting in San Bernardino. Every time we're over there, we hear something bad happening over here. But you hear in the news, there's still tension and wars over there. But their main industry is tourism, so they go to great extremes to keep you safe. And we'll be on one bus, and you'll go out of someone looking for your bus, and you'll see 50 buses. I mean, there's so many tourists there that they thrive on tourism. So anyway, the final 2 days will be in the old city, and then we'll fly back from Jerusalem to Phoenix. So that's that. There's no way to do it all. And what each trip I've gone on, I've tried to fine tune. I didn't like places. I've cut out the places that I thought took up way too much time, or they didn't have the big significance. I've added places like Nazareth Village that I heard from someone else was very good. And so this is a custom tour based on what I think. If you go with a big company, a lot of them have contracts where they have to go here and they have to go here and they have to go there, and you go where they want to go. And if perchance we decide we want to stay longer, because my favorite place on the last day, what day would it be? The Garden Tomb. The Garden Tomb. That'll be probably on day 12. And the Garden Tomb, you've got two traditional sites of the tomb. One is in the middle of the city. That would be the Catholic site at the end of the Via Dolorosa. And the other one is just outside the gates, called the Garden Tomb. And on my trip when I went alone, I spent 8 hours at the Garden Tomb. And it's run by volunteers who give tours. If I ever do retire, I want to be a tour guide at the Garden Tomb. They go over for 3 months at a time and see people from every language of the world go through there. You see the right there at the Garden Tomb. It's called the Place of the Skull. You see it looks like a skull carved into the rock. You actually walk into the tomb. Now, the one in the church, in the Catholic sense, is once again, you walk in, and it's just a thing of incense in there. And both people will tell you, we don't know. We weren't there. But what I love about them is they'll tell you, this is what happened at this place. Our evidence believes, but we're not trying to prove this. We're not in a debate over that. We're just trying to tell you what happened so you can come to life. And that's the biggest part about the Holy Land for me. It came to life. It came to life. And it just makes the Bible real. Questions? Okay, you wear comfortable clothes. The weather will be much like here, I think. It'll be much like here. No, in November. I did it later for the heat, because if you go in the summer, it's very, very hot. So we picked, And I balance that. I want you to know for cost and that. I went in summer one time, and our people said we don't ever want to go back in summer again because it's so hot. It's like walking here. The best time to go is late fall or early spring, and there. But wear comfortable shoes. You'll need to wear some sacred places. You might need to cover your shoulders, but wear walking shoes. Nothing will you need fancy. It's not like a cruise where you have a fancy dinner. You can wear shorts. You can wear shorts, yes. Very seldom. I would be just in case, but the places we went, we did not have to in the last two trips. In Greece we did, she said, but not in Israel. But we'll get all those for sure. But I would say I don't know about Egypt. I don't know about Egypt. Okay, so Egypt, I'll get that. You'll probably need a skirt or a head covering when you go there. At one place. Yes, Karen. Okay, you will need, and I would encourage you, I would say, especially now, everybody needs to get travel insurance on their own. They have a company that goes through here that you get it on, but if you want to do it, you can Google it and get your own, a lot of times a lot cheaper, but with COVID, I would encourage, I didn't get it before, but my wife says we're getting it now. We're getting it now, just because if you had to stay, something like that. Yes, it's on the back page, the travel insurance.
How do you pay for things with credit card?
You can do anything with credit card these days. Anything. In fact, since I started going since 2005, I mean, I carried all the cash in the world, and now it's hard even to use cash now. So you can probably use everything. Take a credit card. There's debit machines that you can get money right there. So yes, most everything with a credit card. Yes, Bob. It's, well, first of all, what we want to do is I want to make sure we have enough people to go. So I would like you to give that. I don't think it's due until a long time. So here we go. I'd have to see. It's on here somewhere, and I can get that information to you. But it's not for a long time. But what I want you to do, people want to go. I want to make sure that we have enough to go. Talk to friends or family members to see if there's other people who want to go. Because we need to make sure we're all in this and we're ready to go. Because I want to go, but I want to go if it's beneficial for everyone to go. Read this and see. I think what I want you to look to see. If anybody sees when it says the next payments are due, if I remember correctly. 60 to 90 days. Okay, yeah, it's like 60, 90 days before. So the final payment's not going to be due till about this time next year, I don't think. Okay, I need to know within the next month the $300, and I can get you. And if we don't have enough, you'll get your $300 back. But I need to know. Probably we need at least 20 to go, and I think we've got paid 8 right now, and we've got 8 paid right now. So I think we'll probably get 20. I'm not trying to be negative on that, but I don't. And I think right now we're planning to keep the schedule as is. My tour guide said, we're just going to go, we're going to do that, but let them know the extra cost. But once I see the people who pay, I will talk to you, and you can probably talk me into if we want to. I said, what if we skipped Egypt, or what if we skipped Jordan? If we did that. And I will tell you this, when I get groups, I always get in trouble because I don't ever take a vote, because that there's no way to please everybody. I'll ask him what's in the best interest of our group. What's in the best interest of our group. The other option was to skip Jordan and Egypt and go to Athens for 2 days. But the last time we went to Athens, Athens was a mess. It was just a mess. Question, Ken. Oh, I would love to have 6. No, we'll stop it at 45. We'll stop it at 45. No, that's probably, my guess is, I usually can guess, but my church in Las Vegas was bigger. We have more people. A perfect group is 30 to 40. Like I said, if I could get 30 and get that bus by ourselves, if we get 25, I'll probably say I'll pay you more to have that bus by yourself. But you can help me by inviting people to come. And the perfect, well, I have to cut it off at 45. I went with, and that's the beauty of our group. When I went there one time, Mike Huckabee had a group that went there. And I remember meeting someone in his group, and I'm a Mike Huckabee fan, so don't get me wrong. But I'll tell people my tour was better because he had 10 buses, 10 buses. And he rode each bus for 2 hours a day so that he could say that he talked to everybody. That's the only way he could do it. You know what I'm saying? And then he spoke for 15 minutes a night in a group where there were 800 people in there. And so that's why ours is so much more personal, in that we can know where we're gonna eat. This would be our groups. Every night you'll eat like this and eat with different people, and you'll get to know people. It's not 800 people like that to do that. Question? Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy that we're doing a small tour because there were 12 buses
Mm-hmm.
over 1,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and this is much better.
Yeah. So it's much more. You know, you won't get David Jeremiah, but you'll get. Well, I study him, so you'll get some of David Jeremiah. You'll get my Jeremiah. I've been preaching for 3 years, but no, love David Jeremiah, and that's the problem. That's the give and the take. You go with people, you know, you go on the Gaither cruises, or you go on the Charles Stanley cruises, or things like that. It's great because you get the entertainment and the preaching in that. But I tell people, nothing against that. That's great. It's just totally different. Totally different. Because ours is more of a personal tour where I'll stop at every site and say, gather in, gather in. This is where Jesus turned the water into wine. And we may have communion there, right there, at that place right there. Just us. You know, when one of my favorite places is we're on the Mount of Beatitudes. And I'll have you all sit down right here. Huh? Okay, and then one of the things I've done is I can't remember much what we did yesterday, but I can memorize scripture. Is that I try to recite the Sermon on the Mount, walking through you, things like that. And those are just different things that make ours a little more personal, and that people have said, I'll never forget you doing the Sermon on the mountain. I'll never forget you preaching. We're all on one boat, you know. I have 40 boats out there, you know, out there. So it's just not better or worse. It's just different than that. Other questions? Yes, Carol. Okay. The time difference, I can't tell you exactly. I'm going to guess 9 hours, 10 hours. About 9 or 10 hours. 9 or 10 hours. And like I said, we called our bank before we left, let them know for our credit card. We called the phone company. We bought extra plan, but it didn't work when we were in the Gaza Strip. Oh yeah, it did. It worked, but it was roaming. So be careful when you do that. Yeah. Yeah, the West Bank is totally different than Israel if you're buying extra things like that. Carol? Okay, we will decide that when we go. We'll probably meet at the airport, it all depends on how many people we go. In Las Vegas, we just met at the airport because it was easier, and we didn't want everybody to miss the plane if one person did. So usually we'll meet at the airport plenty of time before. To do that, and so people make their own reservations to the airport. Do we need any visas or anything besides just our passport? Okay, you have not in the past, no, and I will get all that information. I've never been to Egypt, so I don't know that about Egypt, but you do not for Israel or Jordan. Are there any other shops besides the COVID that you have to have? No, not as of yet. You need to have adapters. You need to have adapters, and so we always have adapters. Lisa, we're going to give you this information, tell you everything you need for every country for the adapters, but you do need adapters when you go into the hotels. Yes. It is. Now, it's very, believe me, my tours, before you complain, we go to 1/10 of the stores because every other tour, it's every day. I think they get kickbacks to do that. And so I will limit it to 1 or 2 on the trip. And if you buy expensive things, they'll ship them. So, you know, all those, they know what they're doing. But you can bring things back with you, yes. It's not hard at all. Let me come back. I wouldn't think so. No, you do not. No, you do not. I've never heard that before. I'll come back to you, Carol. You get your questions. Well, you bring that, all right? Okay. So yes. Okay. We'll go one at a time. Okay. No, we want is if you can sign up to reserve your place inside your thing, you've got one of these sheets. We need that filled up with a $300 check. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at it because I didn't know if we had enough to go. Once I know we're a go, but I want you to invite friends or to go with us because we can add people all the way up till next summer. But they will not, they cannot buy the tickets until 1 year ahead. So we will confirm, it's October 31st, is that what it is? October 31st. That's the day that we'll determine where we're flying to. But so right now we're still going to Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. And unless he says it's just not worth it, we're doing that. And the additional cost, I will tell you, will be $50 for 3 of those COVID shots. Because these are bare bones costs, so I'm trying to do that. And if we do have to fly from Jordan, it's another $50 extra, which isn't a big deal to do that. So, but he said, be aware of that, but that could change. So what I would need for you today, when we leave, just come where Randy is back here. On that table, just leave me your registration and your $300, and that'll be your confirmation. And then I will get word out next week. We have 12 people signed up, and then we need 20 to make it a go, and then we'll go from there. Yes, Diane.
I didn't see the Holocaust Museum on here.
It is, and this, we're not going to the Holocaust Museum. And I would encourage you to go to Washington, D.C. I've been on one of them, and the pro and the con is, and it's a personal thing, but go to the Holocaust Museum. But you can go to, it's the exact same thing in Washington, D.C. It's so far outside, it takes an entire day. It takes an entire day. And I don't want to lighten it, but it goes against everything I've been trying to work at the whole trip. Do you know what I'm talking about? It just changes the I mean, I've been twice to the Holocaust Museum, but everything I've been building those 10, 12 days of Israel, and then you go there, and I told my wife, I don't ever want to go in Israel again. I'll go, exact same thing in Washington, D.C. But so sorry. If you looked on that thing, I told Lisa, and I'm not going to do this yet unless he tells me. If he told me that we couldn't, it's going to be too much trouble to go to Egypt and Jordan, friends, we can easily spend 12 days in Israel. There's so much to do. We've never spent time in Tel Aviv. I think deep down, I'd like to go to Tel Aviv and just recoup a day, because I'm usually asleep the first. I usually, through that overnight flight, it's an overnight flight from Frankfurt to there, and and so it's that first day, it's very tiring. Other questions? Carol, you got another one? No, $50 a shot. And they're tests. They're not shots. They're tests. They're tests. I think, they hire a company that will come into our hotel in Egypt, and everybody will have to pay $50, and they'll get tested. And we'll go in Jordan. You'll get $50 in Jordan, $50 in, so it'd be $150 per test. And if I know that, I don't want to include that right now because we may not need it. And so if I knew we needed it, I would say let's just include it in the price. But we don't know what we're going to need yet, or that extra airline flight there. Karen? Oh, okay. Other questions? Yes, Patty?
I want to make sure that people know that their passport has to be 60.
That's 6 months.
Half a month, 6 months.
Make sure your passport, check your dates. I always forget to check my dates, but it's got to extend probably to April of 2023, before you can go.
If you indicate on this registration that you do want travel insurance, or how does that?
Yeah. Okay, if I understand correctly, if you want insurance, call me first if you want, but because I think something happened last time, and I don't understand why, but somehow you have to sign up for this travel insurance before you make that second payment or something. So there's a key on that. But the people who didn't, so if you want it, I can tell them and get you in touch with and get that travel insurance. But the people in my last church who didn't get it, they got it just as cheap online. It's not hard to get, and I can help you. We can help you get that if you want to do it that way. Yeah, but earlier is always cheaper, is what Lisa says on travel insurance. Anybody else? So, folks, let me know. I'll hang around and put if you're ready to give that to us today, and then I'll send out a letter. Give me 2 weeks, and once I'll say how many people we have signed up, and then I'll tell you that these are our plans, or we need 6 more people. Get the word out, or no more. But it's I want to make sure that you're up to it, because it is travel. It is travel. And every day there's walking. There's walking. There's a couple times when we did the Via Dolorosa or the Hezekiah's Tunnel that sometimes we had 2 or 3 people say, I'm going to wait on the bus. And that's a shame that you missed that. But you don't want to slow the whole group down. Where's the place over Megiddo over there? There's a huge Megiddo where Armageddon's going to be. There's a tunnel to do there. And so there is, and you got to be careful because they don't have sidewalks like we have. They're cobblestone. And so I'm looking, everybody here can make it. I'm not saying you can't, but I've had times before when I've seen someone, I said, you can't do it. You can't do a wheelchair the whole day. Yeah, as many as you want, Karen. I've had 90-year-olds go. We had. It depends totally on your health. Depends totally on your health. We had this couple go in their late 80s, and they carried on a backpack. And then I had this one 30-year-old guy who paid extra for 3 suitcases. And it's just, some people are more adventurous, and but they went right through customs and right through baggage. They carried on the whole time. But no age limit at all. No, at all. And we're a family. We help each other. We'll help each other there. Yes, Judy.
Are there facilities for washing clothes?
There will be, and so every little village has a laundromat. I would say the hotels are very nice, and so that will be available there. Yes. My favorite part was the lunches, because we would eat in the villages, and so what we'll do is we'll probably, if once we know who's going, and we'll have 2 or 3 meetings before we go, and so we'll cater Mediterranean food, or something like that, or just the shawarmas or the falafels or the things like that, the gyros, the olives. I don't like olives, but they're everywhere to do that. So, any other questions? So, folks, thank you for coming. I know people watching by live stream, please let me know, because I want to, I'd love to make this work. And this is about the right amount of time, a year ahead, that you need to do this. So we got plenty of time to do it. And I do it well in advance, because I know people plan trips ahead of time, and sometimes they plan their trips a year or 2 years out. And just, yes, because we had, what about the lady in Indiana? You remember her? Yeah, we had a year, she did bake sales, and in 12 months, she earned the money to go. So she asked if she could do it on installments, and she did bake sales once a month and earned her money and let people know she was going to Israel, and she earned her money. So it's a lot of money. That's why I will not advertise it anymore in the church. But it's worth it, and would love for you to go if God can provide that way for you. Yes, Pat.
Okay, so, in the event, God forbid, this is still going on and our trip has to be canceled and will we get back all the money, or is that what the insurance?
No. I'll answer that. I'll ask. I don't know if they cancel. I would think Inspirational Tours will give us the money that they gave us. If they cancel, I will confirm that. But I don't foresee that. But I think that if you have to cancel, that's the trip insurance. I will confirm that for you. But yeah, that's right. If they say it's not worth it, they're going to give your money back. Absolutely. Okay. I'll find out. Okay, let me tell you this, and I've had this. I will answer that question. I've never had that happen. It could be like they do on cruises. They just say, "We'll extend it," and that never works out good. It never works out. But I will answer that question, Pat, because I know a lot of people. Trevor, the chaplain who came last week, he's taking tours, and he said they just postponed it, and then but I need to find that out. Yes.
Just quickly, the trip insurance is an option for cancel for any reason. Just simply change your mind, a couple extra bucks, you can have that option
Okay.
for your trip insurance.
So, yeah, you have to pay more. And what I will do this week, I'm going to call Karen and get a better answer on the trip insurance. But also, if any of you, I learned this last time, we have people in there who are willing to do some research on trip insurance online. And if you find a place, let me know, because last time one guy found one and they shared it with you. Can you do that?
7 Cs, it's called 7 Cs, and
Okay.
they do trip.
Okay, research that and let me know that information, because a lot of people went with that one. It was cheaper and it worked well. But I like what he said. For a little more, cancel for any reason. I just don't want to go. I don't want to go, or I don't like the restrictions to that. Okay?
Maybe they'll give us a discount if our whole group, we had 35 people, pool their insurance, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they may. I'll ask him that too. I'll ask him. Will you find out about 7 Cs and let me know, and I'll call that. Okay. Thank you very much. We're through for the day. I'll be around if you need me.